Well, Mohammed Al-Masri joins me now. He's Professor of Media Studies at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Good to have you with us. So last night I spoke with a doctor inside a Nasser Hospital he recounted to me how he had tried to comply with the Israeli instructions they received yesterday to leave Nasser Hospital. He left with some people who were inside the hospital, reached an Israeli checkpoint, and he was told that the medical staff should stay in the hospital. So apparently the Israelis know there are medical staff, there are patients inside. And today we wake up to the news that this hospital has been shelled. How do we make sense of that?
Well, I mean, it's a news story, but in some ways it's the same story. For 4.5 months, Israel has been seeking to make life unlivable for Palestinians, and part of that operation has involved attacking hospitals. This has been made clear by human rights groups, evidence on the ground, and it's been mentioned by South Africa at the ICJ. So this is consistent with what Israel's been doing for 4.5 months.
And now we're seeing even Israeli allies like Canada, Australia, New Zealand calling for a ceasefire. Any sign that Israel might be listening?
No, no indication at all. I would say that these calls are certainly good and welcome, but at the end of the day, the United States holds the cards, and at present, and as has been the case for 4.5 months, the U.S. is entirely in Israel's corner. They are not calling for a ceasefire. They don't desire a ceasefire. They want Israel to continue with its mission, which I think, my interpretation of what they've been doing for 4.5 months is that this is all part of their greater Israel plan. They will not finish until they've ethnically cleansed Gaza.
Is Israel observing the instructions of the ICJ's preliminary ruling?
No, I think actually they've become even more brazen in some ways over the last several weeks. I mean, that was one of the questions that I had, several weeks ago when I sat up here on Al Jazeera and asked whether Israel would sort of moderate its behavior in Gaza in light of what's happening at The Hague, but they haven't. They've continued to target hospitals. They've continued to target civilian infrastructures. We saw the Rafah massacre a few days ago. They've continued to target journalists, 2 Al Jazeera journalists killed this week. And so in many ways, their operation in Gaza has become even more brazen.
Let me present to you what I imagine some of the supporters of the Netanyahu administration will say, that they have issued instructions to the army to try and organize or prompt an evacuation of people in Rafah. Are we seeing that as we wake up to news of more strikes on hospitals?
No, we're not seeing that, and it's actually an impossibility because there's no safe place in Gaza. Every single independent observer or expert, especially people who are on the ground, will tell you that there is no safe place to go in Gaza. And in the past, when there were, at least in theory, some safe sites or safe zones, Israel bombed those safe zones. So really, there is only one place for Gazans to go right now, and that is outside of Gaza, that is into Egypt.
Aid has been disrupted for about a week. Is this becoming a battle for survival for those Palestinians bottled up in a tiny part of Gaza?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, the human rights organizations have been warning of mass starvation now for a couple of months. So the situation is dire. More and more Palestinians are dying of entirely preventable diseases related to malnutrition, and it's only going to get worse as this this crisis continues.
And just to put this in context, we're talking about people who have endured decades of occupation and what international human rights groups, including Israeli human rights group B'Tselem, call apartheid, right? This is not a battle between two equal armies.
It's actually worse than apartheid. I like what Noam Chomsky said when he was asked, why don't you use the word apartheid to describe what's happening to the Palestinians? He said, the reason I don't use the word apartheid is because it's much worse than apartheid. And Desmond Tutu, the former South African archbishop, who is obviously an expert in apartheid, when he was asked a similar question, he said that what the Palestinians have been enduring for decades is worse than apartheid South Africa. So it's worse than apartheid. And I think we shouldn't forget the situation in Gaza, as has been the case for many, many years. It's been a concentration camp. Those are the words that have been used by Israeli experts like Giora Island, a top Israeli security official, like Baruch Kimmerling, a top Israeli former sociologist at the Hebrew University. Gaza is a concentration camp, has been for a long time. And in that context, the Palestinians now are subjected to a full-on genocide.
All right, thank you so much for your analysis on that.